So one of the first things, right? We need to start at the beginning, right? The where we start at is usually at the self-talk level, right? And we talk about this before as well. So your thoughts are the seeds of your beliefs, and your thoughts can determine what beliefs you have, right? What emotions you have, what actions you take, and what sort of reality that you will create for yourself, right? And as essentially we talked about this before, it is essentially the law of cause and effect. Your thoughts can literally determine what type of reality you experience, especially when it comes to your emotions and what type of actions you take, right? So that's one of the main important lessons that I've learned over the last 2 to 3 years when I was studying the mind extensively, is that the impact thoughts have on your life, right? And one of the most valuable also things I learned is that you can change your thoughts, and therefore you can change your beliefs. And I'll tell you what are the mechanisms that are associated with changing your beliefs easily. But understand that the foundation of beliefs are coming from thoughts. They are essentially the seeds for the plant to grow. Plant is basically, think of it like your beliefs, right? Or it becomes a tree later on when it becomes fully matured, right? So what I usually tell to people, identify what type of self-critical talk do you have? What type of self-critical thoughts do you have? And do you have things like, oh, I'm not good enough? I don't know if I can do it. Life is too hard. I don't know if I can make it, or whatever it may be. Identify what are these thoughts that basically affecting you. And if you knew these thoughts are negatively affecting you, I would say spend the time, with your journal, with your notebook, whatever it may be, ask yourself, what are some of the negative thinking or negative thought patterns that I'm carrying right now with me, right? So that's one of the first steps. And then plan to, right? Again, we are the decision making stage right now, right? So we're not really going and practicing. So at this stage, we just learn about what you need to do. So the first thing you need to do, identify it. And the second aspect is that replace those thoughts or patterns with more compassionate and constructive affirmations, right? So we'll talk about how to set up these affirmations. I will give you a example set as well that you can use later on. But what I found was that, using may I affirmations, right? I know this is actually coming from loving kindness meditations. I found that may I affirmations specifically helps to reprogram the mind a lot more easily. If you started saying, I know I am enough right away without you really believing it, your subconscious mind will just simply reject it. It's like, no, I don't believe that already, right? If I say I forgive myself when you can't or don't want to forgive yourself, it will just reject that idea immediately. So that's why it is important to understand how to program your mind or self-talk the right way. And one of the most effective ways that I found was start with may I affirmation. So instead of saying I know I am enough or I know I'm going to be successful, may I know that I am enough. May I know that I'm going to be successful. May I forgive myself completely. May I love myself unconditionally. So it's basically almost a request for your subconscious mind, asking, these are the things, this is the way I want to think from now on. So we are again at the conscious levels, and then we are starting to guide the subconscious mind on how we need to organize it or reprogram it. Okay. So we talked about this graphic before, how the thoughts can affect your emotions and behavior. So when you started to have thoughts like may I love myself unconditionally, may I recognize that I am enough, it started to have corresponding emotions, right, and sensations and behaviors. The same thing if you were to think, oh, I am bad at this, I don't know if I can do it, life is too hard. That's going to cause a corresponding beliefs and also specific emotions and sensations. Life feels harder, right? You will feel like even your body is getting tightened. You might even feel a little bit of stress and anxiety, right? And that obviously going to affect how you take actions and how you behave. When you believe you can't do something, or you are doubtful that you'll be successful, right, at the thought level, you might not take the necessary actions that is valuable for you. So, for example, I used to when I was before I was starting this journey, right? Before, in my 30s, I remember, even though I had, success, there was thoughts, man, like, I don't know if my life is gonna continue to go like this. I don't know if I will be successful in the future. And then that's used to cause me a lot of negative emotions and negative thinking, right? And especially when my father passed away, I started to doubt myself even more. I started to become fearful of my own death, right? And what's going to happen to me. So I realized, man, my own thoughts are now creating these, emotions of anxiety and anxiety and feelings of like difficult feelings that I have a hard time dealing with, right? Especially things like sadness and, stress. And I was starting to feel that more and more. And I didn't really understand, why am I feeling these emotions now? And I didn't know at that time they are related to the thoughts that I was carrying, the beliefs that I was carrying. And I realized I didn't really, at the time when I was having these thoughts, I didn't really look at the full picture either. I was just focused on very set of information or data or certain only specific events in the past that led to these type of thoughts, and that led to the beliefs or the emotions that made me not fully myself, or I wasn't essentially happy. So again, I started to, stop working on what I was doing, because every time I would go to work, I didn't feel like I was myself. I would get stressed out. I would get emotional. I would get really sad. I would get angry. I was like, where are they coming from? I really didn't know. And then I didn't know it was associated with my thoughts, to be honest. Right. So, this was a major find for me when I realized, man, thoughts, what's causing me. And then when I got the understanding of how the subconscious mind works, and that I can actually change them if I want to, that made a huge difference, right? So that's one of the main things I would like you guys to think about is, think about how your thoughts and beliefs are affecting your emotions and behaviors. And if you knew your negative thinking, especially self-criticism or criticism of others, are affecting your emotions and behaviors, would you be still willing to be hold them, right? Would you still hold them if you knew they are causing you harm, right? So that's really the consideration at this stage. Okay. So what are some of these negative thinking, and what can you really do about it? And what are the at least things that you can start thinking about? So the first is, one of the main ones, I'm not good enough, right? When, I remember when I was even in my field before, in the corporate world, I was like, certain things when I had to like, man, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. And that always, it didn't make me feel good. And that's one of the main reasons that I was fearful to start many things. And I feel like that's one of the main reasons even some of the things that I was working on didn't go the way I want. So I would continually think this way mistakenly. But I realized that if you were to actively replace that thinking or reprogram your self-talk, say, may I understand that I'm learning, growing, and worthy now, right? Things like that. And also, if if you're thinking things like, I'm a failure, I made a lot of mistakes in the past, there's no way to correct them, recognize that mistakes are part of success, right? I am learning from every experience. So that's one of the main things that I started to see, is that when certain things wasn't going my way, especially, I think I remember I started maybe about, oh man, I lost count how many businesses I probably have started, but I realized a lot of these businesses were getting affected by the thoughts and beliefs I was carrying, and the emotions that those things were generating was affecting what actions I would take in my business, what actions I would take in my career, right? So I realize now more and more, no, mistakes, failures are part of the stepping stone that is associated with your success, right? It's inevitable that you will make mistakes, especially when you're taking a lot of action towards improving your life. And they're normal, completely normal. But in my mind, I feel like some of the mistakes or some of the things I did was end of the life, right? End of my journey. So that was very difficult for me to deal with, but I didn't know how to change that. And that's one of the main things I also that kind of thinking led to thinking that, oh, my life is too hard, right? And my life is too hard. So how can I get it, make it better? And I really didn't see a way out. So what I started to do is, after I learning about this type of thinking and even taking courses in counseling and coaching, I realized that giving a purpose to my challenge itself was actually how I'm going to get out of it. So one of the biggest challenges I had was public speaking. So I realized I'm going to use this challenge for my greatest good and greatest good for all. So I started to, give these type of talks and give these type of sessions to people in a way to kind of improve myself. So I literally took my challenge and then turned it into a greatest good, right? So if you were having challenging time with, starting your business or getting your clients, you start thinking, no, I'm going to use this challenge for my greatest good, because it's the same thing I saw. I remember when I was graduated from university, I studied psychology, right? So everybody was like, oh, what are you going to do with the psychology degree? So everybody was kind of making fun of it. And I believed that, unfortunately. And then I couldn't really do anything with psychology, unfortunately. So what I do now is very different. I say, no, if I'm on a challenge or like getting a job is challenging, I would say like, no, I'm going to use it for my greatest good. I'm going to use this for my greatest good. So what happened after I graduated from school, and when I did have a hard time getting jobs I wanted, I literally changed. Now what I do is actually help people get those jobs that I couldn't get. It's getting people started in tech, getting people started in marketing. And that's really what I did, because I literally changed and turned most difficult period in my life, like landing a job, into my greatest good, and then greatest good for all. So when I now helping people with getting jobs and whatnot, right, it's really actually a very valuable and enjoyable thing for me. So that's one of the main things I will also want you to encourage you to think about is, if you're going through any challenges right now, right, and say if you're having a hard time scaling your business or landing a job, or you want improve your health, right, improve your relationships, let that be the challenge that's going to make you better. Give a purpose for your challenges, give a purpose for the problems in your life. Write them down, right? I always talk about the value of writing things down, right? So externalize the problem. Look, I'm having a challenging time with this, I'm having a challenging time with that. So write down specifically what are the challenges you're going through. Then tell yourself, I'm going to use this challenge for the greatest good for myself. And if you want, you can say, I'm going to use this challenge for greatest good for all. I realize classifying a problem, using a problem to bring greatest good for all, have a massive impact on the subconscious mind, and in helping you transform that belief into something that is powerful and strong, right? So I'll tell you, I'm literally, that's what I'm doing most every time I go through a challenge. I'm like, no, I'm going to use it for my greatest good. I'm going to use it for greatest good for all. If I thinking about something I made mistakes in the past or failed at, that's exactly how I think about it. I'm going to use it for my greatest good for all. So that's how I started to really reprogram my mind and my self-talk. So every time even I catch myself, I'm thinking any other way, right? Especially negative way, because I find it no longer useful to think that way, especially when positive self-talk give me so much benefit and bonuses, right? Why would I participate in negative thinking? Right? Negative self-talk. So that's what I do now. I actively participating in thinking positively and developing positive self-talk from my end. Okay.